Hello, everyone, and welcome to Walking Through the Bible. When speaking about God, we always need to do so with a dose of humility. The scriptures speak much about God's character, his actions, and his will. These things we can speak confidently on. But the scriptures don't reveal to us everything about God, and it seems to be those things that many theologians like to discuss more than anything else. And when we do so, we often can come to wrong conclusions, ones that would contradict other scriptures, which should show us that our conclusions are wrong. In Job, it is now Zophar's turn to speak to Job. Some of the theology that he presents is very sound and good, but it still has some error in that it leads Zophar to conclude some things that go far beyond his pay grade. Let's find out what now. So if you have a Bible with you, you can turn to Job chapter 11. We're going to be reading from verses 1 to 20. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So Job chapter 11, beginning of verse 1. Then Zophar the Naamathite answered and said, Should not the multitude of words be answered? And should a man full of talk be vindicated? Should your empty talk make men hold their peace? And when you mock, should no one rebuke you? For you have said, My doctrine is pure, and I am clean in your eyes. But oh, that God would speak and open his lips against you, that he would show you the secrets of wisdom, for they would double your prudence. Know therefore that God exacts from you less than your iniquity deserves. Can you search out the deep things of God? Can you find out the limits of the Almighty? They are higher than heaven. What can you do? Deeper than Sheol. What can you know? Their measure is longer than the earth and broader than the sea. If he passes by, imprisons, and gathers to judgment, then who can hinder him? For he knows deceitful men. He sees wickedness also. Will he not then consider it? For an empty-headed man will be wise when a wild donkey's colt is born a man. If you would prepare your heart and stretch out your hands towards him, if iniquity were in your hand and you put it far away, and would not let wickedness dwell in your tents, then surely you could lift up your face without spot. Yes, you could be steadfast and not fear, because you would forget your misery and remember it as waters that have passed away, and your life would be brighter than noonday. Though you were dark, you would be like the morning, and you would be secure because there is hope. Yes, you would dig around you and take your rest in safety. You would also lie down, and no one would make you afraid. Yes, many would court your favor, but the eyes of the wicked will fail, and they will not escape, and their hope, loss of life. Job has spent the last 2 chapters answering the rebukes of Bildad. He is still claiming that he does not have sin and doesn't deserve to be punished by God, but God seems to enjoy punishing people, even the righteous, so who is man to stand against God? At the end of Job's speech, Job pleaded for God to take his rod up so that Job could die in peace, an echo of what Job said in chapter 3. Here in chapter 11, it is now Zophar's turn to speak, and he begins by basically telling Job, for all the words that you spoke, you have no idea what you're talking about, and someone needs to stand up and tell you that. He says that he wishes God would come and speak to Job, for perhaps then Job could be put in his place, for Job can't possibly understand the things of God. The ironic thing about this statement is that God will later come and speak to Job in this book, and he would do exactly that. But Zophar is saying that in regards to his view that Job is in sin, yet denying it. Had God spoken to Job, Zophar said God would actually reveal to Job that he is suffering less than his iniquity deserves. Now, knowing how much Job is suffering, that must have truly sounded harsh to Job, for how could he suffer anymore? But from a purely doctrinal standpoint, if this suffering was from God, and it was for sin, then Zophar was right. We often minimize sin saying it's not so bad. It's just a little white lie, or the person we stole from could afford it, so that makes it okay. Sin is a grievous thing to God, an affront to his very nature, which is why hell will be so terrible, and we should not want to go there. What Zophar gets wrong, though, like all of Job's friends, is that Job is suffering because of his sin, and that all suffering is because of sin. But continuing with Zophar's point, he asks, who can search out the deep things of God, or who can find the limits of the Almighty? He says that they are higher than the heavens, the sky, and what we call outer space. They are deeper than Sheol, the realm of the dead. Their measure is longer than the earth and broader than the sea. Knowing this, who can hinder him or question his judgment? For he knows the ways of deceitful men. Man thinks himself to be wise and to be as free as a wild donkey's colt, but if he would but humble himself, he would know that God was the one who is above all. All of these things about God ring true. God is so much greater than us, and his wisdom so much higher than us. So when we try to comprehend the things of God, we will always fall short, and when we try to question God, we're really acting like fools. What is Zophar's solution to Job's suffering? Prepare your heart, put away your iniquity. Then you could lift your face without spot, and God would remove your suffering. You would be able to lie down without fear. You would be able to once again have people come and court your favor, meaning his wealth would return, and you would be able to rest in safety. If man has sinned, he does need to repent, but doing so does not equal the end of suffering. Sometimes correction is painful, and God allows it to continue to keep us humble. But again, not all suffering is from God. And if it's not from God, if it is from the devil, if it is from this world, you can rest assured that it will continue, or at least return if it is stopped momentarily. So if we were to summarize Zophar's speech, we would say that Zophar chastises Job for thinking himself righteous, when in fact he is wicked and suffering because of that. But that Job should count himself lucky, for God was sparing the worst of suffering, for Job deserved more. That is a stinging rebuke. How would Job respond? We'll find that out, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Job chapter 12, verses 1 to 12, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. We thank you for watching Walking Through the Bible today. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below. But if you like this video, we ask that you consider subscribing to our channel so you won't miss out on other videos in our series, as well as share this video among your friends so that the saving message of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.